Hi guys, welcome to Oliveboard. Welcome to the session where we'll be discussing about a very important report, that is World Employment and Social Outlook. So if I talk about this report and this very session, see, every Monday I'll be coming up with one or the other report. So this is the report for the very beginning. So this is your first class with respect to the dedicated session where we'll be starting your report section. When I talk about this report, World Employment and Social Outlook report, this is very important. With respect to your phase 1, I hope you all know, but also for your phase 2. The report came out in the month of January. Since the report came out in the month of January, and we all know that current affairs, especially for your report section, anything which has happened, within one period, I'm talking about reports specifically, reports and your government schemes, 1 year, within 1 year, if some report was there in news, that is important. So for this, when I talk about phase 1, it's important. Obviously, for your phase 2, the report talks about employment. The report talks about what will be its social implications, inequality and all. Employment is very much there in your syllabus. I hope you all know that. And that's why, this topic is very important. Not only employment, gender issues, social justice. This all talks about what is the, the gender inequality out there. So that's why we are going to study this report. For the PDF of this session, you can get it on the Oliveboard's app under the courses section. If at all you want to reach me out, if you have any query to ask, you can write it to me over my Telegram channel, that is ESI for Regulatory Bodies. You can search it, you will get it. And let's start with the report. Who published this report? The report was published by International Labour Organization, that is ILO. Very important. Don't get confused. It's World Employment and Social Outlook. What are the highlights? Global unemployment rate stood at 5.1% in 2023. It's a modest improvement from the last year, that is 2022. But if I talk about 2024, the report projects, or the report says that there will be rising global unemployment that will be reaching 5.2%. So in 2023, it was 5.1%. In 2024, they are saying that it will increase to 5.2%, and that's not a good thing. Jobs gap rate in 2023 was 8.2% in high income countries and 20.5% in low income countries. So jobs gap rate is more for the low income countries and is less for the high income country. That is also one thing that you need to take care of. Other highlights which you can and you should remember, it will be important for your answer writing as well, is despite the quickly declining unemployment rate or the extreme poverty that was there, the extreme poverty did decline in 2020. The number of workers who were living, the laborers who were living under the extreme poverty line, it declined. What is this extreme poverty? How is it defined? So as per your World Bank says that any person who is earning, I'm saying, less than $2.15 per person per day in the purchasing power parity is said to be under extreme poverty. So the World Bank has drawn a line. And what is that line? What it says, that any person who is earning less than this line, that is $2.15 per day, in terms of the purchasing power parity, he is poor, extreme poor. It has increased to 1 million in 2023, so that's not a good figure to show. If I say SDG index, Sustainable Development Goal, SDG number 1, it also make this very clear that there is some problem. We will not be able to achieve our goal of ending poverty or no poverty by 2030. So SDG 1 talks about no poverty by 2030, but we'll miss our target if we increase, if we go forward with the pace we are moving ahead with. Next thing, the number of workers living in modest poverty. Modest means they are somewhat better than this. They are not under extreme poverty, but yes, they are poor, relatively poor. In that case, it is being said that if a worker is earning $3.65 per day per person in the purchasing power parity terms, it has also increased by 8.4 million in 2023. So again, the data shows that there is some problem with respect to poverty, with respect to unemployment as well. Now for women's participation, it's said that after COVID, women's participation has certainly improved. But then gender gap still persists. So I hope you can understand that if the gender gap is still there, then, even if the women participation has bounced back, there will be some discrepancies. So that means gender inequality is there. Now there is a question for you. There are two SDGs, SDG number 5 and SDG number 10. I want you to tell me in the comment section below, what are these two SDGs talking about? One is regarding inequality, global inequalities, and the other is regarding gender inequality. Which one is gender inequality? Is it 5 or is it 10? And which is global inequalities? This is for your homework. Tell me in the comment section below. Moving ahead. Youth unemployment rates and NEET. This is not the exam. This is not in employment, education or training. Category remain high, posing challenges for the long-term employment prospects. Why? Because they are not in employment, they are not employed, neither they are educating themselves, that means they are not skilling themselves, nor they are doing any training, no apprenticeship, nothing they are doing. That means, further the unemployment rate is going to be hiked up. China, Russia and Mexico, these three countries, they have experienced a positive real wage growth. Positive real wage growth, they typically want to say that the real wages growth, the wage growth with respect to inflation has been positive. That means if the inflation, let's take an example, if the inflation was 7%, hypothetically, then the real wage growth is like, wages might have grown by 10%. That means, the wages rise have been experienced by the laborers. China and Russia have the highest labor productivity growth. So over there, labor productivity growth is very high. Which two countries? China and Russia. If I typically talk about India, in India's case, real wages in India and Turkey are positive compared to other G20 countries. So that's a good thing for India. If we talk about G20 countries and if we have to compare India, then we are doing better. But the available data refers to 2022, which is relative to 2021. We are the report yet not suggests the data regarding 2023, but this is what the report suggested. Guys, just one thing I want to convey over here is G20 is very important. G20 remains in news. There are multiple things. Last year only 2023, we hosted the G20 summit, and therefore the troika of G20. Other members of G20, that is very important. Just one thing I want to remind, if at all you are not aware of that, please do go and read about G20. It is important. Moving ahead. So we have talked about that real wages in India and Turkey, both are going in a positive direction if we compare it with the G20 countries. This implies that despite the global challenges, what are the global challenges? Global challenges refer to the Russia-Ukraine war. Global challenges talks about the supply chain disruptions out there. Global challenges talks about the stagnancy of growth in your regions like your UK, your Germany and all. But despite that, India is moving ahead. Growth prospects in India is very high. Wage increase in India have managed to outpace the inflation. That's what is the positive real wage. That is what we mean. Contributing to the improvement in real wages. That also implies that in India, if we talk about workers who are living under extreme poverty, the number of workers, the headcount ratio of such workers who are living under the extreme poverty is surely going to decrease. This also you can write in your answers. Next thing, the other G20 countries saw a real wages fall. So that means India is doing good. The declines were particularly pronounced in Brazil, that is 6.9%, Italy 5%, and Indonesia 3.5%. So these three countries have the highest wage decline. That is what the report's data suggests. Now let's talk about international labor organizations. All these organizations which are there either in the field of, they are working in the field of economy, like your World Economic Forum or World Bank, so on and so forth. Apart from that, the organizations like your ILO, UNDP and all, they are also very important. Let's talk about ILO. ILO is a UN agency that is dedicated to a global realm of employment. So it looks after the employment. It is the only organization that has a tripartite structure. Tripartite structure, by that I mean, on the one hand, it makes the government to sit. On the other, it makes the employer to sit. And the other, it's the employee. So it works with all three of them to make a conducive environment with a motto, decent work for all. So the primary purpose of ILO being established was social and economic justice by establishing international labor standards. Where are the headquarters? I believe we all know that Geneva, that is in Switzerland. When was it formed? So it was established in 1990. So in 1990, there was this Treaty of Versailles that was signed. This treaty was signed to conclude their World War I. And after the World War I was concluded, it was being found that the world cannot grow more without the support of laborers. So labor's well-being, labor's socio-economic upliftment was being thought of a very important thing in any country's growth. And that's why ILO was formed, International Labour Organization. In 1946, it attained the status of a specialized agency within the newly established United Nations. So I believe you all know United Nations was formed much later than your ILO. But once your United Nations got formed, ILO was given a special status under this. How many members are there? There are 187 member countries. Now, what are the core labor standards with respect to ILO? What does ILO look after? ILO focuses on 4 fundamental principles and rights to work, known as core labor standards. So what are these core labor standards? The first core labor standards talks about freedom of association and the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining. Freedom of association, which is also written or mentioned in our Article 19 of our Constitution. You can just have a look. It's a fundamental right. Next thing, elimination of forced and compulsory labor. So that is also one of our fundamental right against exploitation. So that is also one of the fundamental rights enshrined in our Constitution. Abolition of child labor, again a fundamental right. Elimination of discrimination with respect to employment and occupation, right to equality. Not only in our fundamental right, but it also finds a mention in our DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policies. I hope you are able to understand this as well. Just 1 minute. Yeah, sorry. So our fundamental rights as well as DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policies, both talks about, not having this discrimination with respect to employment as well as occupation. So our article number 15, if at all I want to talk about fundamental rights, it talks about something sort of same thing. Next thing, if I talk about child labor, Article 24 prohibits any kind of child labor. Article 23 of our fundamental rights, again, talk about elimination of forced and compulsory labor, forced labor. Apart from that, our Article 23 also talks about abolition of human trafficking. But then, all these articles, they are important for your Nabard's preparation. For your RBI doesn't resort to asking articles. But then, one thing I want to clarify, while answer writing, if you are able to incorporate certain these things, because we being the Indian citizen, we must know about our rights. So this is our rights, right? We must know also the duties that we have to abide by. In that case, you must know what are the what is written in our fundamental rights. But then moving ahead, with respect to ILO, see, India is a member of ILO. So, we also have to manage our rules according to the standards which is being said by the ILO. And that's why, somewhere, if we talk about Indian Constitution as well, it has certain provisions according to these standards as well. Next thing is your 3 main bodies. What are the 3 main bodies when we talk about your ILO? So we have an International Labour Conference which meets annually to formulate international labour standards. We have a governing body which serves as the executive council and decides the agency's policy as well as budget. We also have an International Labour Office, which is a permanent secretariat that administers the organization and implements the activities. Before moving ahead, I want to tell you one thing, that if you are searching for one stop thing that where you want to start your preparation, then either you can enroll in the 75-day course, which is the batch 2. See, roughly we have 75 days to go now. If you want, you can enroll in that. If you just want monthly PDFs, then I would say this is the best course that you can avail for. You can get the monthly PDFs either in this or in this as well. In this, we can have weekly revision. Apart from that, if you just want phase 1 course, then this is the course, phase 1, phase 2, this. Now moving ahead with the topic itself. So this is the question. We read about ILO, we read about various of its highlights, but then the question can be very simple. The question can be, what is the projected global unemployment rate for 2024 according to the ILO World Employment and Social Outlook? It can be other way around as well. World Employment Social and Social Outlook. It's being published by whom? ILO. ILO has also published one more report, which is India specific report on unemployment. That is also very important. India employment report. You can also go back and refer to it. That is also very, very important. The data, each data which is being quoted in that is very important as far as your exam is concerned. But then for this, tell me what could be the correct answer in the comment section below. Agar session pasand aaya ho, then do hit the like button. And if you want more such session, you can definitely write it down. Apart from that, if you have any specific suggestions, I will be very happy to cater to that as well. Anything that you want to ask, you can ask in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.